If you had any plans to buy a Ford electric vehicle, you might have to buy one as soon as possible. This is not because there is a timeline for shopping for one, but merely because Ford has stopped producing EVs, and once the already produced units get sold out, getting one will be impossible. Unless, of course, you are comfortable with buying a used one. As it stands, there is nothing like a Ford EV production, as Ford CEO Jim Farley has shut production and will be paying attention to gas cars once more. Lovers of EVs might not understand the reason for this shutdown of production. Interestingly, it doesn't seem like this is the case for other car users. The reason for this is if Ford is not selling its EVs, then it is losing. Last year alone, Ford Motors lost over $4 billion. This is huge and was accumulated from the $36,000 loss that they incurred from the sale of each car. Although sales have been bad for the Ford EVs generally, sales have never been as bad as they were in January. The sales in January are the worst they have been in a decade. Before ditching EVs, Ford was not the only car company that was into the production of electric vehicles. Tesla, Toyota, and General Motors were also in the production of EVs. Well, as it stands, Ford has walked away from the production of electric vehicles. But why exactly has Ford ditched the production of electric vehicles? What is the problem with EVs, and why does it seem like not many car lovers are interested in getting electric vehicles? We will find out in a minute. But in the meantime, like and share this video. Also, please subscribe to this channel to see more videos like this. Moving on. It might seem like some folks love their environments so much, and one way to prove their love is by owning EVs. Of course, electric vehicles are considered better for the environment, but that's not the reason you see them around. It will shock you to find out that several people in the United States use electric vehicles because of some form of political influence. But how is this possible? You see, it is easy to assume lots of manufacturing companies are totally in charge of what goes on in their factories. However, that is not the case. Sometimes the government invests in firms, and this gives them the freedom to influence the outcome of things. A perfect example of this is Joe Biden's $9 billion investment in Ford's EV division. Of course, he could have invested this money in Ford Motors in general, but he chose to invest in the EV division because he wanted an increase in the production of electric vehicles. After Biden invested in Ford's EV division, the company had no choice but to make more electric vehicles. For a moment, it seemed like Ford Motors was doing fine. However, the firm was running at a loss. Well, the CEO of Ford Motors, Jim Farley, is done running at a loss and has decided to discontinue the EV project. This might seem strange, but the man is only trying to save his firm from getting bankrupt. Ford spent about 3 years putting so much attention and energy into the production of electric vehicles, but it has not enjoyed a patronage that is commensurate to its investments. There are lots of reasons for this, and chief among them is the fact that Ford electric vehicles are considered to be overpriced. The average person might not exactly like the idea of buying an EV. But since the government seems to be putting a lot into getting electric vehicles into the market, people probably do not mind buying them. However, the fact that car lovers feel like they are spending more than they actually should on Ford EVs simply discourages them from buying one. Since Ford Motors is unable to sell EVs just like it would sell cars that run on gas, it appears it is beginning to give all its attention to cars that are gas-powered. You might have some questions about this decision, but the truth is this firm makes its money from the sale of gas cars. Right now, it might seem like Ford suddenly stopped producing electric vehicles. However, that's not what the case is. This firm did not stop producing EVs overnight. It began by secretly reducing the production of electric vehicles gradually. This was already the norm in its Michigan factory. But it turns out people didn't notice. Ford did not leave a vacuum after reducing the production of EVs in Michigan. With a reduction in the production of EVs came a simultaneous increase in the production of gas-powered vehicles. To speed up the production of vehicles that are gas-powered, Ford had to employ close to 1,000 people. Some folks think that putting an end to the production of electric vehicles is a little too sudden. But when looked at critically, Ford Motors perhaps has no choice at the moment. Just last month, Ford could only sell 4,600 units of its electric vehicles. Of course, this is poor. But if you think it is low, then you have no idea how poorly Ford's flagship Mustang performed. Maybe if you knew, you would push for the EVs to be suspended. Last month, this Mustang was only able to sell 1,200 units. It is common knowledge that sales were bad in January, but they didn't become bad overnight. Last year, they were not so good. But the sale of 1,200 units, which is a 51% drop, is as bad as things have gotten. Things might seem so bad, but they are likely to get worse. There has been a drop in the price attached to these electric vehicles. However, they do not seem to be selling out. They are still firmly seated in various car lots, and things might remain like this for much longer. The price tag attached to these Ford electric vehicles is huge, and that's of major discouragement. Well, some folks have looked beyond the huge price tags that come with these vehicles and have decided to buy them anyway. But this has just not ended well. You see, a good number of people who have bought Ford electric vehicles seem to have done this to help avoid polluting the environment. They have probably achieved this. But what they have not achieved is getting proper value for their money. Electric vehicles from Ford might seem great, but they are not as good as anticipated. They are associated with several problems. Charging for several Ford electric vehicle owners has been a Herculean task. Additionally, sometimes the batteries do not seem to have been built for very cold days. While these challenges look like problems that can be fixed, the cost of fixing a damaged Ford electric vehicle is a lot more than the average person has envisaged. Sometimes, the amount needed to fix a broken Ford EV can buy a small car. Well, if you have never had to fix one, you most likely have an idea what it will cost to repair a bad Ford electric vehicle. Ford electric vehicles might not be making great sales. Interestingly, we cannot say this about their other cars. So if you think this is a Ford problem, you are wrong. It's not a problem with Ford Motors. It has a lot to do with the perception of electric vehicles by the public. At this point, you are probably wondering why Ford paid a lot of attention to electric vehicles when it was doing great with gas-powered cars and wasn't going to get a lot of boost from electric vehicles. Well, one thing you have to note is at the time Ford put electric vehicles ahead of gas-powered vehicles, it had no idea what the financial turnout would be. Also, it went the route of electric vehicles because that was what the government of the United States wanted. The Biden administration came up with a rule that made it clear vehicle manufacturing companies had to sell a certain number of EVs or pay some weighty fines. That's not all. The various vehicle manufacturing companies in the United States had to comply with this rule. But something interesting happened. The public got a tax credit for buying EVs. This was supposed to be nice. But it wasn't, as the government got Ford to increase the price of their EVs. Of course, Ford got their money, but the extras went to the government. Ford paid attention to the government, but things did not exactly go according to plan. Right now, it is listening to the customers and seems to be getting things right. But how far will it go in this direction? The people might be happy. But is Ford ready to pay the fine associated with not selling EVs? Kindly let us know what you think in the comment section below. See you in the next video.